Noise becomes music. Deep within an ancient forest, where the trees whispered secrets and the breeze carried a voice, there lived a monk named Kaito. Every morning at dawn, he would sit by a stream and close his eyes. There he listened, but he wasn't seeking silence. The world was full of noise. The crackling of leaves, the murmur of the water, the distant song of a bird, even the beating of his own heart. At first, those sounds felt like chaos, noise, disruptions to his peace. One day, while meditating, Kaito asked himself, what if that noise could become music? With that question, he took a deep breath, allowing every sound to enter, not to distract him, but to teach him. Kaito remained seated, wrapped in the cool air of dawn. Sunlight began to slip through the branches, painting shadows that seemed to dance upon the damp earth. He closed his eyes with greater intent, as if he wished to touch the very essence of each sound. First came the faint crackle of a falling leaf, a small sound, almost insignificant, but he let it be without judgment. It was the forest's sigh, a subtle message drifting through the silence. Then followed the murmur of the stream, water flowing over stones, breaking into tiny chords, each drop part of an ancient symphony. Beyond that, a bird lifted its song. It wasn't perfect, nor did it follow a pattern, yet it carried a pure strength. In that moment, Kaito understood. Every sound was a note, every noise a piece of music, and music itself was woven into the very fabric of the world. The question returned to him, why do we call noise the sound we fail to understand? He realized his mind was like a leaf at dawn, not always ready to receive, interpret, or embrace what arrives. Slowly, Kaito opened his eyes. The forest was alive, filled with invisible vibrations. A deep calm washed over him, as if the world itself were breathing beside him. And in that breath, he found a teaching. It is not silence that heals, but the conscious acceptance of every sound. That afternoon, Kaito chose to remain by the stream a little longer. The forest was bathed in gold, the sunlight bending gently toward the horizon. He closed his eyes again, not to escape, but to go deeper. Each sound arrived with its own intention. The steady murmur of the water, as if caressing his soul. The crackling of dry branches, reminding him that everything changes. The whisper of the wind, carrying distant memories. Even the faint rhythm of his own breath. Together they formed an invisible tapestry of sound. Alive, intricate, and whole. Kaito remembered the words of his teacher. The mind seeks order in chaos. The heart recognizes the music hidden within the noise. He reflected that perhaps his resistance to noise was merely a reflection of his resistance to life itself. Imperfect, uncertain, unpredictable. Then he understood something essential. Noise was not something to fear or to eliminate. It was a pure expression of the present moment. A reminder that every instant is alive, even those that seem chaotic. Music is not born only from calm, but also from conflict, from difference, from tension. He inhaled deeply. In that breath, he felt every sound slowly merging into a greater melody. A melody not made of perfect notes, but of acceptance. Kaito smiled in silence. His heart had begun to heal, for he no longer saw noise as intrusion, but as conversation. Every sound was a word, and the entire world spoke a language of healing. In that moment, he realized that meditation was not about silencing noise, but about opening the ears and the heart to transform it. The teaching was clear. There is no noise without music. There is only listening without depth. Kaito breathed once more. The forest seemed to respond. An invisible choir, woven from every leaf, every stone, every particle of air, began to rise. The noise was becoming music. Night was slowly approaching. The sun hid behind the hills, and the golden light softened into gentle, almost ethereal tones. Kaito remained seated by the stream, letting his body adjust to the silence that was beginning to settle. Yet even within that silence, there was noise, the heartbeat of the forest, a constant life that never truly sleeps. He realized that throughout his life, he had sought peace as if it were a distant land, a secret place to be reached. But now he understood that peace was not found by avoiding noise, but by transforming it. True healing came from learning to listen without resistance. Closing his eyes once more, he sank into deep meditation. He imagined each sound as a stream of water flowing into him. Some were soft, like gentle caresses. Others were strong, even discordant, like thunder or a storm. He did not reject them. He received them all, allowing them to enter as if they were part of his own breath. Then, a vision arose in his mind. He was sitting in a vast temple whose walls were made entirely of sound. There was no absolute silence. Every noise was a stone, a leaf, a sacred word. Together, all these notes formed a great song, a hymn to existence itself. Tears ran down Kaito's face. They were not tears of sorrow, but of understanding. He saw that his life was full of noises, restless thoughts, intense emotions, painful memories, desires, and fears. And all of it was part of the music of his soul. A clear truth emerged. When you accept noise, you find music. When you accept life as it is, you find peace. He breathed slowly, feeling each inhalation absorb the outer noise and each exhalation transform it into an inner melody. A soft, continuous song that needed no perfection to exist. Kaito understood that his meditation was not merely a personal act, but a universal ritual of healing. For each time someone truly listens, they turn the world's noise into music. And so, little by little, life becomes clearer, gentler, fuller. That night, before sleeping under the star-filled sky, Kaito made a silent promise. I will be a listener. I will turn every noise into a note, and every note into a song of love. And beneath that infinite sky, the noise began to transform into music. Upon waking, Kaito felt something different within him. It wasn't just peace. It was a deeper understanding, a sense that every sound, from the faintest whisper to the loudest echo, had a purpose. A new day was beginning, and with it, a fresh symphony of sound. He rose slowly and walked among the trees. Each step crunched against the damp earth. Every leaf, every stone, offered its own sound. Once, these noises had seemed like distractions. Now they were invitations, calls to listen beyond the audible, to perceive the hidden music woven through life itself. He approached the stream, where the water continued its endless dance. He watched as the current met obstacles, stones, roots, fallen branches. The water never stopped. It adapted, changed direction, creating new melodies with every collision. The noise didn't vanish, it transformed. Kaito reflected on this. Life, too, was like that. Obstacles, pain, unexpected turns. All of it once felt like noise when he couldn't understand it. But with mindful listening, everything became music, a deeper lesson, a form of healing. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He imagined that every noise he had once rejected was a note he had refused to hear. Every pain, every conflict, every uncertainty. And then he accepted them. They were all part of his inner symphony. Kaito realized that to live consciously was an act of composition, to take the noise and turn it into music. It was learning to embrace fragility, imperfection, and intensity as parts of the same song. In that moment, the forest seemed to respond. A gentle wind brushed through the branches, carrying a soft murmur. It was as if nature itself whispered, "You have understood the melody of noise. Now it's time to share it." A new intention blossomed in Kaito's heart, to become not just a listener, but a teacher of listening, to show others that noise is not an enemy, but a doorway to peace. He breathed, smiled, and opened his eyes. The world had not changed, but he had. The noise had become music, and the music had become his path to healing. The day moved slowly. The forest seemed to suspend time itself, as if it wanted to teach Kaito something. He walked without hurry, feeling the gentle weight of each step, listening not only with his ears but with his whole being. Noise was everywhere, the rustling of leaves in the wind, the distant hum of insects, the soft tapping of some creature moving through the brush. Together, they formed a tapestry of sound, flowing like invisible threads woven through the air. Kaito stopped beside an ancient oak whose roots embraced the earth like an act of eternal love. He placed his hands on its bark and closed his eyes. Breathing slowly, he allowed every sound to enter him. And then he felt it. There was no noise without silence, and no silence without noise. They were two sides of the same coin, two elements that needed each other to exist. Within him, an image arose. A vast ocean, its waves colliding and foaming, and within that danced silence. Noise and silence were like alternating currents, creating a soundscape of infinite layers. He realized that his mind had always feared noise because it was searching for an absolute silence, a silence that does not exist. Kaito understood that true meditation wasn't about silencing noise but transforming perception. Learning to listen in a new way, with acceptance, with tenderness, with presence. Noise becomes music when we stop fighting against it and start integrating it into our lives. He took a deep breath. His whole body vibrated with the truth of this new understanding. Noise was not just sound, it was emotion, it was life, it was memory. It was the channel through which existence spoke directly to the soul. That day, Kaito made a decision. His practice would be devoted to becoming a bridge between noise and music. Each breath would be an act of listening, each step an act of acceptance. And every moment, no matter how chaotic, would be a note in the infinite symphony of life. In silence, he whispered a prayer. May I always be able to listen and turn every noise into music. The forest responded with a soft murmur, an echo of his heart. The afternoon slowed, as if the forest wished to stretch every passing moment. The air was rich with the scent of damp earth, leaves, and flowers. Kaito sat beneath the old oak tree, his back straight, eyes closed, listening to the endless concert of the world. Within him, something was unfolding. He no longer saw noise as something external to endure, nor as an annoyance to be silenced. Now he understood that noise was part of him, part of his breath, his story, his wounds, part of his healing. He remembered his life, the moments of joy and of pain. Every emotion, every thought, every conflict had been like a discordant note he had never learned to accept. And now he realized, those notes were not sounds to destroy, but melodies to integrate. He took a deep breath and reflected. If every sound in the forest was part of an invisible music, why should his life be any different? Perhaps every challenge was a note he was meant to learn to play. Every fear, every sorrow, every inner struggle was part of a greater symphony, a composition meant to heal. With that reflection, something within him opened, a bridge between noise and music, between chaos and calm. He understood that true listening was a sacred act, a way to heal both the soul and the world. Kaito rose slowly and walked toward the stream, letting each step echo like a silent drumbeat. The water flowed gently, as if mirroring his newfound peace. Kaito smiled in silence. The teaching had reached his heart. Noise is the raw material of peace. When you listen to it with awareness, it becomes music. And music is healing. With that certainty, Kaito closed his eyes once more. In that moment, there was no distinction between noise and music. Everything was one. Everything was peace. Night came slowly, draping the forest in a blanket of calm. The sky filled with stars, and a deep silence embraced everything. But it was not an empty silence. It was a fullness where every sound of the day still lingered, like a living memory. Kaito sat again beside the stream. He closed his eyes and listened. This time he wasn't seeking answers. He was simply present. The crunch of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the gentle murmur of water, all were notes in a song gifted to him by the universe. In that moment, he understood the simplest and deepest truth. Peace is not somewhere outside, not a destination to reach. It is here in conscious listening. It is in accepting noise as part of the music, in accepting life just as it is. Noise, Kaito thought, is like the very heartbeat of the world. And music is the acceptance that rises from the heart. He breathed deeply and felt his body fill with gratitude. Noise no longer bothered him, because he understood that every sound was a teacher. Every moment, even the most chaotic, held a lesson in healing. Before sleeping beneath the stars, Kaito whispered softly, "May my life be music. May every noise be a lesson. May every moment be peace." The forest, the stream, and the night answered with a gentle murmur, like a sound embrace. Noise had transformed. It was no longer noise. It was music. And in that music, Kaito found home.